2019, an annus horribilis for the banks and a year of big resets for business and investors everywhere. Well, here's my take. Commissioner Kenneth Hayne, of course, dominated the start with an excoriation of the greed mentality. Experience shows that conflicts between duty and interest can seldom be managed. He said self-interest will almost always trump duty. Well, by year-end, it was Vale, NAB CEO Andrew Thorburn and his chair Ken Henry. And thanks to those sensational Austrac revelations, Westpac CEO Brian Hartzer and his chair Lindsay Maxted. That's on top of the scalps from CBA and AMP last year. Bank remediation of customers is heading for a staggering $10 billion. The internal cost to actually return cash to customers is as yet an unwritten story. We now have new responsible lending laws, so we may need to curb our Uber trips and Netflix subs to get a loan. We have a reset for regulators. Enforceable undertakings are taking a backseat to why not litigate. ASIC's new enforcer Dan Crannan barks loudly, but ASIC's court action is really yet to come. In the meantime, a board shrink listened in on the top floor. Really, you couldn't make this stuff up, could you? We have a reset in super. A wall of money is flowing from Sydney to Melbourne, out of retail funds and into industry super, raising a few new questions on transparency for next year. The shock of the year, though, and definitely one for Bill Shorten, was the election result. And yet by December, thanks to Pauline Hanson, the government's Ensuring Integrity Bill is thrown out, with thug John Setka still in charge of the Victorian CFMEU. Was business behaviour partly to blame for that, do you think? Woolworths and Bunnings underpaying staff? Well, maybe. Boards were certainly tested, with second strikes aplenty, but no board spills yet. Life got harder for bank savers this year, with 3 RBA cuts and another 25 basis points tipped for February. Unfortunately for the government, rate cuts and tax cuts didn't lead to people spending more. Instead, rate cuts may even be damaging to confidence, we're hearing. Well, tomorrow at MyEFO, a surplus to Treasurer Josh Frydenberg is as the ring, my precious, is to Gollum. Don't expect too much stimulus. Behind the scenes tension this year, of course, between the Reserve Bank and the government. The surprise of 2019? A property reset. Back up again. How quickly the markets in Sydney and Melbourne are bouncing towards their 27 peak. And yet risk is all around. Household debt, Trump tweets on US-China relations, regional tensions here, Brexit, drought, hell, climate change. Kenneth Hayne popped his head up again last week, weighing in on climate change policy. And then the risk of government intervention. Boy, a reset there. Banking and the big stick in energy policy, caps and electricity. And in 2020, for anyone in water trading, I say watch out. The government did shoe in its response to digital platforms ahead of Christmas, and the ACCC is already suing Google anyway, making the most of the distrust around FANG. Microsoft Global CEO Satya Nadella jumped into Australia for a business drive just as he was made Forbes Global Business Person of the Year. But what was really cool, sitting at number 2 globally, an Australian, Fortescue's Elizabeth Gaines. Australian Business Person of the Year for me, Amanda Lacaze at Rare Earths Miner Linus for her defence against Wesfarmers, her victory on Malaysian operations, and sitting as she does on one of the really strategic global resources at the moment. Boards under pressure are under pressure now not just to behave, but to think environment and think community. Pressure not just from activist investors, but big super funds. In the US, top business leaders signed up to ending shareholder primacy. Now, just how that translates into business we're yet to see. But in Australia, there won't be a new coal-fired power station built again. That's another reset. Oh, and there won't be any more Holden Commodores. Everyone wants SUVs. The share market, through all of this, well, just have a look. The ASX up 19%, and on Wall Street, the S&P 500 up 24%. We could yet see a Santa rally from here. Other winners as the year closes: buy now, pay later, for now at least. Outside responsible lending laws, with Tyra delivering a windfall of 20% on listing for investors last week. And what to expect for 2020 now? A Boris Brexit delivered, a second Trump presidential term, an Australian energy policy, rain, auditors under the blowtorch, more power for industry super? Let's have a decent break first.